If we're taking a closer look at this test execution report in K6 Cloud, we'll notice here a section which says Performance Insights. And we have here different kind of insights, we can call it like that. And we're going to see here that one of these insights is that we have too many metrics. So we can see here that if we're going to fail here, click on this, going to get a warning, essentially too many metrics. And it's going to even say here your test is generating too many requests and metrics. And this can be like a bit confusing, right? And it says here even you're using too many custom metrics, especially for scripts. And I would say that our script is relatively simple. It only has a few requests, doesn't even use custom metrics, and we have essentially set only thresholds for two values. So if we're looking at this, we're going to see here, only have two thresholds and we don't have custom metrics. So why is this warning showing up? Well, there's an important thing to know about requests. And that is we have some requests which have a stable path. So essentially here, when we're registering a user, this address stays the same, doesn't change for every user. However, there are a few endpoints, and for that we're going to scroll a bit further down. So let's take a look at this endpoint here where we're deleting a crocodile. We have to go to this path, and you will notice here that in the URL, there's this variable, which means that every time we create a new crocodile, our address will look different, and only that segment of the address will be different. But for K6, it looks like we are hitting a lot of endpoints, right? So every time we're going to go to this address, K6 is not going to know that we are actually using the endpoint that deletes a crocodile. It's going to think, oh, this is a new address. So it is having a hard time grouping all the requests by specific URLs. So this is what, in this situation, this warning is all about. I'm going to put in the resources folder a link to this page where you can read about the different warnings that K6 Cloud may generate. Now, what's super important is not to simply ignore this warning. So this is K6 Cloud trying to educate you, trying to tell you, hey, we have some best practices. We have noticed that typically it is best to do it like this. And we're noticing in your situation that you're doing something weird. So it's best to check what you have there. And as I said, in the beginning, it's a bit harder to grasp exactly what K6 wants from you. And for that reason, it's always a good idea to start like with smaller scripts so that you can get this feedback relatively early on and not when you already have something super complex, which you don't understand anymore what's going on. But anyway, you can get different kinds of warnings. And on this page, you're going to get essentially information for all these warnings and also hints like how you can deal with this. So definitely check this page and try to understand what you're doing wrong and how you can improve this by simply spending a bit of time and going through the documentation. Now, going back to our example, how can we fix this? How can we fix our code? The solution to this is to actually tag these URLs, especially those that have this variable. Let me bring up a script that addresses this issue. So this is the updated script, which you will find as a resource to this lecture. And if you go all the way down here, you're going to see here that we have added this tags configuration for each individual request. Now, what we're doing here is we're overriding the name property. Name is something that's automatically added by K6. But in this situation, because the URL is different, essentially the name is the URL that we're calling. Now, we are overriding this by telling K6, hey, this is the delete crocodile URL. And then K6 can group this request regardless of which crocodile ID we have here. And the same idea applies to every other request that I have inside the script. The patch crocodile URL, we have the put crocodile URL. So we are using these tags to help K6. So let's go ahead and run this script once again with this fix that is using tags and see if K6 Cloud is still complaining. I'm going to use K6 Cloud. And the name of the script is k6-test-api. And I'm going to have here -tags.js. In this case, the project ID is something incorrect. So this is something that we still need to fix. So let's go ahead back to the configuration. Where is the project ID? Here's the project ID. So I used project ID associated to a different account. So I'm going to go back to K6, copy the correct project ID, and update it here inside the code. And I'm going to try the script once again. We're not going to wait for the script to execute, but rather jump back to the final report. After a few minutes, the test execution would appear as failed. It says here an error number, the test that's failed. Let's go into K6 Cloud and see what's that all about. So inside K6, we're going to see here right in the beginning, top of the test, failed by threshold, which means essentially if we're going here all the way down to the thresholds, we're going to see here that 2 of the thresholds that we have defined has actually failed. Apart from this, what's important to notice is that if we're looking here at the performance insights, and this is essentially what we wanted to fix, we have no failed essentially insights. So everything that we did has passed. In a nutshell, we have fixed the previous warning by using these tags. So all good.